Welcome back to Domingo Live. In this segment, we're talking about a new legalization process for immigrants. We talked about it on 3 News. You had it on the morning show.
Absolutely.
We aired it on 3 News at 10 o'clock, and it's called Parole in Place. Lydia Herrera, our reporter here at 3 News, produced the story for us, and we want to reshare it with you in hopes of it reaching folks out there that may qualify for this program. Take a look at Lydia's report once again.
Victor Avilos crossed the Rio Grande for the first time at 20 years old. Since 1998, Avilos has tried several times to become a legal resident of the United States, but it has never been easy, until now. Parole in Place allows immigrants who are married to a U.S. citizen to apply for citizenship without having to leave the United States.
Es una alegría no poder escribirla y mi familia igual está contentísima de que yo pueda tener un estatus legal, poder ir también visitar a mi familia en México. Esa es mi mayor alegría.
Prior to this new policy, immigrants would have to file a waiver that can take up to 5 years to process. They were required to wait in their home country until they qualified for a visa. Immigration attorney Heather Moretson says this policy is a shortcut to get parole and apply directly for a permanent resident status as long as they meet the requirements.
To have been married prior to that, to a U.S. citizen. They also have to show that they've been living a continuous physical presence in the United States since June 17, 2014.
Moretson says there are concerns about this new policy. Since it's an executive order, there is a possibility it can be overturned in the future, just like DACA was.
So our concern is that if you don't apply as quick as possible, that it might be stopped.
Avilo says the journey to citizenship has been long, but he knows it will be worth it in the end. Now, he's encouraging his friends to also apply for the program.
Yo les platico que si tienen una oportunidad que no las aprovechen. Y es el momento poder estar legal en este país.
Lydia Herrera, 3 News.
Good
Thank
job,
you.
Lydia.
Thank you, Lydia, for that. And you know, Barbie, we have one of our specialized immigration attorneys with us right now. Debra Rodriguez is an immigration lawyer with the Rodriguez Law Firm here in town. We've interviewed you so many times, and you've been a guest on our 3 News programs throughout the years. We talked about parole in place, but something has happened since Lydia's report and this moment. Tell us about that.
Well, my partner Heather, who you just saw, she called it. We've been worried about a lawsuit being filed to stop this program, and in fact it was filed on Friday. Now the program is still operational because even though they've asked for a temporary injunction, 16 states including Texas, the judge has not granted an injunction yet. And so, you know, after this, I'm going back to the office. I'm working on those applications, and the goal is to get as many filed as we can in case an injunction does happen.
So the takeaway here is file as soon as you possibly can if you are eligible. Now, for those that are eligible, what is the process? What are the steps that they need to go?
Right. You know, eligibility, I know some people think, oh, this is just so easy. It's really discretionary. You have to have been in the U.S. for at least 10 years before June 17th of 2024, so since the 14th. You have to have been married to a U.S. citizen since June 17th. You have to have pretty much a good criminal record. There will be biometrics. There will be vetting of everyone, and if that parole is granted, what it does is it changes an entry without permission into an entry with permission, and that allows the person to stay in the U.S. and apply for their green card through their U.S. citizen spouse. This also applies to stepchildren, and now that the regulations were printed just a few days ago, it also applies in some cases to widows or widowers that were married to a U.S. citizen.
Again, we want to stress here what you mentioned, and that is that if they entered here 10 years ago and stayed out of trouble, did not commit any crimes, worked, did their best to be good citizens, and then married a person here, whether a young man or a young lady, and continued as a legal person would, that means working and paying taxes and doing what they did, they could be eligible for this parole in place.
That's exactly right. I think a lot of people are surprised to find out you could be married to a U.S. citizen, pay your taxes, have U.S. kids, and not be able to fix your papers because you've entered without permission maybe 20 years ago, maybe even when you were a child, as many of our DACA kids have done. And so this is, I guess for lack of a better word, a legal fiction to change an entry without permission into an entry with permission, because there's another law that says if you leave the country to go have that final interview, which you have to do if you came without permission, you have a bar. You cannot come back in for 10 years. Well,
Yeah.
that's not practical. And so this is a way for U.S. families to stay together while this process is going on.
And how long does this process take?
Well, what I say today may not be true next week, but we're hoping that within a 2, 3, 4 month period, the parole will be granted, which is just, like I said, changes your entry without permission into an entry with permission. We hope that will be granted, and with that, then you can go through the rest of the process and additional criminal background checks and additional interviews by immigration. But yeah, so we're hoping that this will help about 500,000 U.S. citizen spouses, and also maybe about 50,000 stepchildren. The thing about stepchildren, you don't have to have been here for 10 years, but you do have to have that stepchild relationship created before the age of 18. And even if the parents are divorced and your U.S. stepmother or father is no longer related to you,
Right.
under the immigration laws, you still might have a chance.
Here's a question that I know that many people are probably thinking about, and that is, this is not, as you mentioned, not going to be an easy process. You will be vetted. That means you will be asked a lot of questions. You will have to jump through hoops to go through this process.
Fingerprints, FBI checks, everything, yes.
All of that. So it's not just someone that's going to be eligible because they married someone.
No.
They've got to qualify for this.
Exactly correct.
And
yes.
there's required evidence. There's evidence that's required as well.
Yes, you have to prove that you've been here for 10 years. You have to prove it's a valid marriage. You have to prove that you merit discretion, because this is a discretionary case-by-case basis. This is just not a, I'm going to sign here and poof, I'm fixed. It's not like that at all. It's not like that at all. It keeps families together, and that's what the Biden administration wanted to do by doing this executive order.
Once again, if we'd like more information, para más información, where do we go?
Rodriguez and Moretzin. We've been here a while, and we are located on Ayers, and our phone number, I think, is up there, 361-883-8900. And look at our Facebook. We'll keep you up to date daily on the status of this lawsuit, but let's keep families together.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on Domingo Live. We
Thank you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Debra.